Greetings and welcome to the Permission Movement Experience. My name is Lynn Hawkins. I'm your host, and I'm so excited that you're here today with us. Today is February the 16th, and it's President's Day. And it's the beginning of the week, it's a Monday, and we've even had some amazing things happening today. Besides being in the midst of a major cold front here on the East Coast, blizzards to the north of me and rain here where I am, it has been an amazing month so far in the month of February. And I say that to say that this month is Red Heart Awareness Month. So did you know that there are more women who die of heart disease than anything else out there? AIDS, cancer combined do not amount to the same numbers as women dying of heart disease. So one of the things that I wanted to bring to you was just a little bit of red today and for the rest of the month to really help to bring awareness to the whole heart thing for women. We are in a place of speaking from heart and from doing that which we love from the heart as part of the Permission Movement experience. And we've given ourselves permission to show up, show strong. It doesn't mean perfect, but it doesn't mean staying hidden in the shadows. What it means is coming out of the shadows and coming to the forefront to express who you are, why you are, and your story is the basis for it all. Today, my wonderful guest is not only a co-author, but she is someone who really knows the impact and the power of your story, because Lynn Sanders is a certified strategic attraction coach, a writer, a speaker, author, creator, and host of the Difference Makers Media. She's CEO of Park Avenue Marketing, and in her work, she helps entrepreneurs to share the stories that they have while making a difference in the world. She's going to share her expert view and her wisdom with us today around crafting your powerful story for strategic attraction, why it's so important, and why it is truly the basis of bringing your story to the best place that it can be, out front, so that others can hear it, so that others can participate in sharing it for the benefit of others. So, Lynn, welcome today. How are you? Oh,
Thank you,
look at your
Lynn.
red heart.
Yes, I have to definitely add that. I really appreciate being here, and I'm excited to share stories that I think will help your audience grow and be able to, expand their exposure and build their following and attract the results that they want.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, Lynn, I always start off with, this little monologue about the permission movement and why we're doing what we're doing. One of the reasons is the bigger vision, and that bigger vision being for the permission movement experience, sharing our social cause, our uplifting causal purpose. And as part of the permission movement experience, that we are doing this whole 9 weeks, 9 celebrity guests, co-authors, and others, so that as we are looking at the Permission to Be Powerful book being published, we're also looking at that book being turned into a study guide and a leader guide for groups of girls and women impact their lives, giving them the ability to not only understand how important their story is and how to create that story of the future, but also to come to the realization that the tools that each co-author has shared in this book are tools that these girls and women can now add to their success toolbox. And one of them is really in understanding your story. And I know that you've been in the space of really coming to helping people to bring their story to a form that it is something that they can share and share with passion and purpose, but also your own journey, your own story. So why don't you share with our audience for just a bit about the journey that you've been on that's brought you to this place of just power and beauty and grace, where you share your passion around helping others to share their story.
Oh, great question there, Lynn. Well, I have learned some very interesting things over the past, I'd say, 10 years. And it's interesting that we talk about heart because actually my mother passed away from a heart attack that was very sudden. And that was a big turning point for me to recognize that we're only here for a limited time. So the question is, how do we want to live our life? What stories do we want to create that will live on beyond our earthly existence? So in reflecting back on my story, and I'm finishing my chapter for you in the book, I realized that our story really is however we want to define our story. We choose the words. So when I work with clients, I help them find the right words that will capture their story and attract the audience they want. For me personally, I feel like I lived unconsciously for a good part of my life. Now, it doesn't mean I was in a dream state all the time, but I felt that things just happened to me. And I think a lot of people probably have the same thoughts that, if something bad happens, it's just random. It just happened. So I think I was led to start finding books that were very spiritual, because I grew up in a traditional Jewish home, and it was a spiritually oriented home. And I went through my ups and downs, as all of us do growing up. But I think that when we're given specific challenges and struggles, that's when it's our big opportunity to grow. And that's when it's a time for us to reflect on our story and what do we want to happen in our life. I don't think our stories are just our genetics. That's part of it. And it's not just the events that happen, but it's our thoughts. And in my bookshelf, which is you can't see in front of me, I have books of all different motivational quality books and self-improvement books and books that I find to be inspirational that help me in building my story. So to be concise about my life and over a number of years here, I feel that what happened was when I came to specific road bumps in my life, challenges, that's when I started moving my story forward to the idea that I can empower myself. And perhaps one of the early challenges, but I was still living unconsciously, was when I was young. My mother chose to give my brothers a bar mitzvah, which is a traditional coming of age passage. But the girls didn't need, my sister and I didn't really need a bat mitzvah because it wasn't that we weren't important, but it wasn't necessary for a girl. So it implanted within me some feelings of lack of self-worth, that, being a woman in today's world isn't that important. My mother said it was very important, of course, to raise the children and keep a good home, but to me it wasn't enough. So I was working hard to be an achiever for all my life, and I have a degree actually in music education, and I also love writing, so I was the newspaper feature editor and news editor, and I try to combine both elements. And after teaching, I had a little road bump where I was thinking maybe I should do something else, and I ended up at a commercial music company because I started reading books on how do I move forward to combine both music and writing. And I wrote commercials. My claim to fame was the WGN TV commercial, Chicago's very own Channel 9 with Lou Rawls singing. And I ended up becoming my own writer for clients because the company I worked for almost 7 years really wasn't as generous as they could be in compensating me. So I sort of fell into business for myself as a default. And again, things seemed to be going along fine just through referrals. People were giving me business. And to me, then, the next really big bump was my mom's sudden passing out of the blue. And at that time, you know, I love doing writing for clients, but I love writing pieces that are inspirational, motivational, educational, just as you're involved in, versus technical. How to put computer components together is important, but it was not, you know, my passion. And I realized after my mother's passing that I needed to be careful with my time and focus on what I really wanted to do. So that's what I call living consciously. What story are you telling yourself about yourself? What story do you want to live? And I felt that at this moment where I almost felt like my life was stopping when my mother stopped, I had to decide, do I want to keep living? I mean, I was that devastated because I was so close to her. And I felt I was led by spirit to the right people and the right information and books that moved me forward, pushed me forward. And you know, actually, I just want to throw it as an aside. Ironically, interestingly enough, I felt like I got a message even last night. I woke up from a dream, and I feel that we're all given these opportunities if we listen to them. It could be in a dream, it could be something that you randomly see at a street sign or on a license plate. That's a reminder that we're not alone, that we have loved ones around us. We have angels, we have guides. So this morning I woke up with a song, a little song that I didn't know where it came from. And it was the melody is like time after time. I had looked it up, telling you that how lucky that I'm so lucky to be loved by you, or something like that. And I knew that was from my mom. She just sent me this song out of nowhere, but she used to always say things like that. Well, anyway, through my journey, I was led to some wonderful motivational, inspirational speakers. I learned from T. Harv Eker, who's out there with the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and I learned that we create our thoughts, and we can replace negative thinking by putting positive affirmations in our mind and our heart. And we learn through multi-senses. He would have us doing high fives to each other and saying each other, I believe in you, and you have a millionaire mind. And then I was led to people like Bob Berg, who is an amazing inspirational speaker. And he talks about the go-giver, that's one of his best-selling books, about how you can give and also receive. I found people like Alex Mondosian, who's been a wonderful teacher for me, and learning how to do online marketing. These are all things that were so different. But so to sum up in a nutshell, I feel like I'm now, over the last 10 years, really been living so consciously, and I want to help others, entrepreneurs, and I have also worked with nonprofit leaders, learn how to tell their story strategically by thinking about the words they choose, thinking about the media that they put out in videos, and also now through the power of these wonderful computers, we can now do online shows, and I have been able to learn how to use that to be able to help interview people who have important stories to tell and get those stories out to the media. So I hope that gives you an idea of my journey.
It does, and it also expresses the passion with which you come to this place right now. I mean, those are some very compelling reasons for you to desire to help others. And in doing so, you're doing the same thing for yourself too. And I love that. Now, I want to get into this whole thing about the importance of your story. Telling your story, a client's story, the story around a success or maybe a challenge that one has had. But with keeping in mind the whole thing around strategy for attracting your ideal clients and customers and attracting the opportunities that will allow you to do greater business. So exactly what is strategic attraction and why does it work?
Great question. Well, again, as I mentioned just a moment ago, I feel, you know, we attract what we want into our lives. So what I felt I was missing was a plan. How do I help my clients to track what they want into their lives? And also, how do I help myself in attracting the right type of clients? Because we all know we can have clients that just aren't the right fit. So I was led to a company called Perfect Customers. Jan Stringer and Alan Hickman are the partners and also our husband and wife. And I found it fascinating because I've been on this journey of living consciously and working on attracting the right energy into my life, that I found it really fascinating that we can actually be empowered to attract the right customers into our business or the perfect relationship. It's not a random thing. We can consciously do that. So as a certified strategic attraction coach, I have learned there are 5 key steps. And most people don't even go beyond even 3, but there are actually 5 steps, and it's a process that we go through where we can identify the qualities of the perfect customer. And that's actually step number 1, to identify the traits, characteristics, and qualities of the perfect customer that we want to attract. So we're thinking selectively here, not that they're just going to ring our bell or whatever. And so what I did, and we all do this, is we take a list and think about what are those qualities. For me, integrity is pretty high up there. I want honest clients. I want people who are warm and personable, caring, compassionate. Alan and Jan said, for instance, it could be a quality like, I would want my perfect customer to want me to have a vacation time, so that we're not on call 24/7. I want my perfect customer to be a person who I would like to be friends with, someone who understands that I have certain working hours and then I need to have my free time. So in this process of strategic attraction, that was just step 1. You basically really reflect on what your interests are, and then you write them down and you reflect on them each day so that you would reinforce that quality, and you're actually sending out an energy to the universe by doing this. You don't see it, just like I had that dream last night. It came to me. We're like broadcasting energy all the time, even if we're off the computers. And that energy will attract what we want. In the same respect, if we focus on the lack, we're going to be drawing that lack to us. So we really need to be careful and conscious about what we're thinking and what we're putting out there.
That's beautiful. I love that, because you are so right. As energetic beings, we do emit an energetic frequency all the time. And so it's key that when we recognize that it is not what we want in our lives, we want to go straight to shift. And shifting that to really staying in the space, in the frequency, in the energy of what it is that you desire. Not just happens with your personal life, but it happens with business as well. And I love the way that you said that, and really gave some steps for identifying your ideal client. We think about that, but I don't think that very many people actually think about it in the realm of energy. Why would you want to really design your ideal client, not just to say, this is who I'm going to go talk to, as much as it is to say, this is who I'm going to talk to because this is truly who my heart wants to do business with and who I want to be attracted to me as well as me attracted to them. And you're right, they are the people that understand what you desire in your life and in your business, because it's probably going to be some of the same things that they desire, right?
Exactly. And plus, I would think that most people want to find others who have a passion for whatever they're doing. So, you don't want to just find people who are going through the motions. At least I don't. So when I connect with clients, I want them to be excited about what they're doing in their life so that then we can rise together, and feel that emotional build. It's very exciting.
It really is. And, it takes me to the next thing about using this whole philosophy of strategic attraction and applying it to how your story fits in it. So tell us a little bit about how to connect with our story so that we can share our story with passion, and it has that purpose of strategically attracting what it is that we'd like.
Right. Well, when I believe our story starts with our belief in ourselves. So that's why it's so tied in with strategic attraction. If we believe that we are worthy, we are deserving, then we're going to take the challenges in our life and we can frame them in a new way. On one of your earlier programs, I had talked about the impact of a book I had read called Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping. We're all going to have challenges, and so in our stories about ourselves or in our business, how do we want to make that obstacle appear? Is it going to be just a little bump in the road that leads us forward, or is it going to be a challenge that's so heavy and so insurmountable that it just stops us? Are we going to focus on the negative feelings that we have, the fears, or are we going to focus on the triumphs that we've overcome this and we're moving forward? So in tying strategic attraction to our story, I think we really are focusing on our beliefs at the root of the story. I'll give you an example. I worked for a number of years, I've done publicity consulting and coaching, and this was for a nonprofit on Chicago's West Side. They had multiple divisions within their organization and multiple stories going on. Some were about after-school care and education. Some were about helping jobs for ex-offenders who were coming back into the community. Some were just about helping people in the community with computer skills. So in any event, I attended twice monthly meetings and listened to all the stories, and then I took copious notes and I wrote down what I thought might be the most important stories to share that month. I consulted with the CEO and she agreed, she signed off, and then I usually picked at least 2 stories a month, and I wrote the press release, distributed that story out to the media, and I followed up. Well, one of the stories was about what they call the overcomers, the meetings that they had on a regular basis for people who were coming back into the community from prison, and how hard it was for them, but what they were doing spiritually to uplift themselves as a group, sort of like an AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, only this is for overcomers. And just by the people in the group hearing each other's stories of positivity, they got inspired to not to fall down in their lives, but to move forward. So I wrote notes and I interviewed people at the group, and I myself was very touched. And I sent this story out to all different media, and one of the people who picked up on it was Channel 11, which is a major station in Chicago, and they decided they wanted to air the story on TV. The Chicago Tribune picked up on it, and they decided that they would like to put it up in the newspaper on the top page, and it ended up being headlines, the front page one day, the Chicago Tribune, and because of that story, that came from being hidden in a small, community group on Chicago's West Side, the mayor of Chicago, at the time was Mayor Daley, read about it, and he decided he wanted to take action, and he donated $100,000 to, that was West Side Health Authority, to give them more money to continue their program. That's the power of story. If we learn how to tell our stories effectively, whether it's through publicity or marketing or online, it has a ripple effect, and it touches people's lives. So I must say I was not paid anywhere near $100,000 as they got the award, but I felt so excited and happy for them because I knew the impact that this money could make in helping more people in the community. And they were, of course, thrilled as well. So that's the power of your story. You never know how it can touch people's lives and what a positive impact it can make.
Oh, that was a great story. And even in the example of what you just did, bringing in that story about the nonprofit and what it was that you did, and the mayor being getting involved in the success around that, that's one way that we can utilize our client stories to help to attract us even. And I just love that. And the way that you expressed it with such passion and color, and I could see it happening as you were telling it. Is there a skill to that? Is that something that people can learn? Because I know that people often say, well, I'm not a good storyteller, or I am a good storyteller, and then it's all about me versus being about the thing that can help people to see and understand the story. So tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely. Well, there are lots of tips, and there's great people teaching storytelling. What I have learned is, and I've studied this too, I continue learning, is the first thing is to be clear about your message, whatever story you're going to say. And in being clear, you can also start off by saying, this is what I'm going to say, give people a preface. This is a story about something, and then tell the story and then recap the story. I don't know if I did all those qualities, but you want to be clear about the message, the meaning behind the story. And I think the point that we're making right here is that stories have impact. Stories have power. Stories have a ripple effect that can touch people's lives. So the first thing I would say is to be really clear about your story. I heard a man who's like a legend in the industry, Jay Abraham, and he talked about story, and he said often what he recommended was to think of a shape like a U. Start at the top of your story, like today, this organization is doing really well, but you drop down. It wasn't always that way. Or today I learned how to tell stories, but it wasn't always that way. So you can start at the top and then go dip down so you hold the audience into a suspense, like, well, how did this person ever get that way? How did I change? Well, I evolved because something negative happened to me where I decided to move through it, whether it was when it was my mother's passing and other things that happened along the way, that I pulled myself forward. People, I think, like to identify with struggle. So in a good story, there's usually some kind of a conflict. All stories have some conflict, otherwise, why read it? So you could say, it was a beautiful day outside today, so I took a walk. Okay, well, that didn't really do too much for me. But if there's something like, it was a beautiful day today, and then I encountered a child who was crying, well, then you want to know more. So in this case of the story of Westside Health Authority, they're struggling to get by. I was hired in, it was kind of an interesting way of being hired. I was interviewing their CEO about patient safety issues, because I was writing and helping produce a story of a video called Things You Should Know Before Entering the Hospital. And it was somehow brought into my life right after my mother had passed away, and I felt like, well, this is, at least it's good, it's something I can do, it's positive. And we were interviewing people, and I was led to this woman. She came up through an email that she had a story to tell about how she was encountered a medical error in the hospital, and I found her story so compelling that I said, you need to tell more of your stories out to the public. She ended up hiring me to be her publicity consultant. So I think you have to care about your audience. You need to be clear. You need to have some conflict, and then of course, you want to have some resolution to your story to show a positive outcome, hopefully, so that people will feel satisfied that, wow, the story went into it. We took people on a journey. Every good movie has, I think, a really good story in it, and it has characters that you want to care about. And from those characters that we care about, we want to hear what happened to them. And ultimately, we want to hear an outcome, I feel, that's a positive. There are sad stories too, but we want to hear an outcome that is satisfying to us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and that's really a wonderful way to tie it together. And being women in business, we want to learn how to relate some of the stories that we've experienced that amount to successes, not just for us, but for our clients, so that when we tell them, how we tell them, aren't really from the standpoint of bragging. That's one of the things that women have some issues with. I don't want to tell what's going to seem like I'm bragging, but there is a way and there is a purpose for telling these types of stories, and I so appreciate you sharing that. Now, it led me to think about, the projects that we're doing, some of the things that we're doing so that others can benefit from. And I know that you have something that's really huge that, I've done very little to help with, but it just warms my heart to be able to tell the story about how I've even had an opportunity to help. And I'd love for you to tell our audience some of that today, right now. Just tell them what it
All
is
right.
that you're working on. Tell us that story.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. You know, the great thing about stories is that people like to hear them and people remember them. So I just want to encourage all of you to tell stories when you're with your clients. You know, it doesn't have to be long, but the point is that people remember stories more than facts. So if I just said to you, this company got a $100,000 award from the mayor, okay, you know, but if I tell you the story, like, you know, that they were telling their stories about overcoming challenges at an overcomers group, and this went to this stage, you know, you remember them. So my story that Lynn is referring to is basically a story that started over 10 years ago, and it was a story that I heard on a video shoot. You know, and as I said before, I think sometimes we're led to different situations in our life that we might not realize at the time, but it has a bigger reason for happening. So I was on a video shoot that was sponsored by Amoco, and it was a story about the International Crane Foundation. This big oil company wanted to show how they were doing something positive for the environment, and they were dedicating a whooping crane exhibit at the International Crane Foundation. It's the only place in the world that harbors all 15 species of cranes, and they actively save the cranes and educate people all over the world about the importance of saving these precious birds. So during that video shoot, I had the opportunity to interview many people, including the co-founder of the International Crane Foundation, Dr. George Archibald, who's known as the world's ambassador to the cranes, just like Jane Goodall is known. But most people don't know George Archibald outside of the scientific community, although it's changing. So off camera, George told me this captivating story that I just couldn't get out of my head. And it was a story about how he became friends with a rare whooping crane named Tex, because she was born in Texas, and Tex believed she was human because she had been imprinted by a zookeeper. That means she was raised by a zookeeper in her first 16 days. And because of that imprinting in her brain, Tex did not want to hang around any other bird. But unfortunately, Tex was her species was on the verge of extinction. Whooping cranes, you know, were just very, very small number. At that time, there were probably around 50 whooping cranes alive in the whole world. There are various estimates. In 1941, it went down to something like 30, pretty low, compared to in the 1860s, there were hundreds of thousands of whooping cranes. But due to their loss of habitat and hunting and accidents, cranes can fly into, you know, all kinds of wires and get hunted. They basically were on the verge of extinction. So George realized that he had to do something radical. And Tex was not laying any eggs because she wasn't hanging around birds. So he was able to bring her to the International Crane Foundation. At that time, it was just starting, and they didn't have any whooping cranes, and he helped her lay a fertile egg by dancing with her, because cranes do a mating dance. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It actually took 6 years, 6 long years. Different challenges happened to him along the way. An egg happened to be laid and it wasn't fertile, or it broke open too soon. And whooping cranes don't usually lay more than 2 eggs at a time. Tex was old, and at the most she could, you know, lay was 1 egg, but it didn't always happen. But after 6 long years, it finally happened, and this egg that was very fragile ended up eventually hatching into a chick, and that little chick ended up, you know, being able to help more chicks get born, and ultimately it helped the whooping cranes survive extinction. So that story hibernated in my mind, pardon the pun, for many years, and I finally decided I need to get the story out because I want to help raise more environmental awareness. I mean, we still face the same challenges. Maybe the whooping cranes aren't on the verge of extinction now. They still are endangered, as are several other crane species. The whooping cranes are the most endangered. But we can make a difference, just as George did, by helping dance with Tex. He ended up getting this little chick hatched, and the chick ended up bringing out more birds. So I decided I was going to take some action on my part, even though I must admit it's a bit scary being out there. I decided to launch a crowdfunding site. never done crowdfunding before, and I didn't know how long it would take. And I was led to Lynn Hawkins because everyone said, you've got to talk to Lynn Hawkins. She knows a lot about crowdfunding. So I got through to Lynn, and I was led to another person, Manolis, who has a company called Reality Crowd TV, and he advised me, well, you know, you really need 3 to 6 months to prepare before launching a crowdfunding site. But I was up against a challenge that this one particular Minneapolis TV station who owned the video footage of George actually dancing with Tex, they did not want me to show that footage for more than a limited amount of time. So I only have actually till the end of this month to be able to show this video. And if you go to, this is a shortened link, H is in Harry, M is in Mary, tips.com/Tex, T-E-X, you will see my crowdfunding site with a video of me speaking, and you'll see George actually flapping his arms and walking with a very large, tall crane named Tex, who he worked with for many years until she ended up laying an egg. So this crowdfunding site has been like an experience. And one last thing is that through the wonderful people I've met, I also got introduced and got to know a woman named Rain Dowell, who's from Calgary, Canada. I've never met her in person, just like I never have met Lynn Hawkins in person, but I would love to. But I feel like I know all of you because we've connected so deeply through the computer. And Rain thought of a creative idea because, you know, when you have a good idea, other people can join in. And she said, why don't we have a Whoop It Up online party, Lynn, a crowdfunding party? Because all you need is about 800 people to donate $10, and you'll have $8,000. That's the amount I need right now, about $8,000 more dollars. So I'm trying my best to push disbelief aside and focus on the positive, that it's possible I could get a sponsor, and it's possible we could raise $8,000. You know, they say you've got to reach for the sky. So this coming Sunday, February 22nd, from 1 to 1:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be having a Whoop It Up party. Rain Dowell is the producer, and we have two very prominent and popular talk show hosts, Ronnie Bincer and Chef Dennis, who are going to be on the program, along with an internationally acclaimed musician named Corky Siegel, who's considered the harmonica blues master, who created a new kind of music combining chamber music and blues. And one of his colleagues, a Chinese musician named Chi Swan, will be joining him. And they're going to be performing live music for everyone. We're going to have an entertainer, Dr. Steve Taubman, who's a best-selling author of a book called Unhypnosis, How to Wake Up, Start Over, and Create the Life You Were Meant to Live, breaking through your boundaries, just like Tex had to change her thinking. She couldn't change, but we can. And then we're also going to have a conservationist from a Patuxent Wildlife Research Center talking about the need to take care of our birds. All this came out from just one little idea that Rain Dowell thought of, having a Whoop It Up party. And all this happened just because I was being open to getting these wonderful ideas. So if we're open to sharing our stories, look what can manifest. It's so exciting. I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it. So if you're available, the only requirement is your willingness to donate $10 towards my book publishing project. In return, I'm going to be giving prizes out to everyone who's attending, and we're going to have some surprise raffle gifts, which I won't give away. The link for this program is being created right now as we speak, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it on Google+. If you look in the Google Events section under Hangouts, it's going to be the Whoop It Up Party. And just synchronistically, as we send out energy, I was wondering why the people from the International Crane Foundation aren't available this weekend. Well, it just so happens there's a big Whooping Crane Festival this weekend in Aransas, Texas, and all the people from the Crane Foundation were invited to speak there. So if you happen to be in Aransas, Texas, you can participate in the Whooping Crane event, all happening this coming weekend, February 22nd. Isn't it something?
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. And to know that the foundation staff might have been there with you participating, other than there being at this huge event. That's just amazing.
But Lynn, the thing that's so interesting is there were two other places that this wild or this rare whooping crane lived. One was at the San Antonio Zoo, and they have offered to contribute to my campaign. The second place, before Tex moved to the International Crane Foundation, was the Patuxent Wildlife Research Centers, America's first wildlife research center, and I think the only one. And she lived there for several years. So those people are familiar with Tex and her story, and they're going to be participating on this Whoop It Up party.
Wow. Well, I'm certainly making my plans to be there because not only is it something that we can see the story continuing to unfold about, but it is also the ability to do something beyond just the thinking around business and my story. And I appreciate that too because, you know, you mentioned the fact that this is going to be developed into a children's book, but tell us a little bit about the further impact of the story, you know, how children are going to be able to learn conservation and how parents and grandparents and teachers and all of those who may come into contact with this story as it relates to their kids will also benefit from this opportunity.
Thank you, Lynn. Well, the story itself has a lot of educational elements that children might not be aware of. Even the idea of imprinting. I don't know if adults are aware that we do get imprinted by the experiences we have, and who would think that a bird would be imprinted by a person to think it doesn't belong with cranes. So the big picture behind this story is I want to create more difference makers materials. I have a second book, a chapter book version of the same story, but I also am aware that there are a lot of great stories from both people and organizations that need to come out. So I see this book really as a springboard, a foundation for the Difference Makers Media movement. I even started a group on Facebook, which you're welcome to join, under Difference Makers Media. So please feel free to go to Facebook and join Difference Makers Media, share your stories, and I could envision having regular content, almost like Chicken Soup for the Soul, just like you're having the permission movement where people are sharing their stories in chapters and people are going to feel very empowered to read the stories, how people gave themselves permission to be powerful. I love that so much. I gravitate to that because I think growing up as a female in a traditional home, I always felt like, well, the woman is supposed to just take care of the home and have the kids. Not that that's bad, but I never really consciously thought that I wasn't giving myself permission to be powerful until I kind of pushed myself out there and changed the story inside my head. So what you're doing is giving people a mind shift. And what I feel I'm wanting to do with the story is educate people not only that we can impact our environment, we make a difference no matter what we do, whether it's recycling or having bird feeders, which I have around my home, to thinking consciously, what can I do to make a difference? So I see this book as the foundation for more books, more programs like this, to have material out there so people can raise their consciousness that we all make a difference. We all choose our thoughts, and we can choose positive thoughts. So I'd like to invite people to think about that and join me on Facebook and share their stories with me. They can send me an email, lynn@differencemakersmedia.com, which is focused on the difference making component of what I do. And I'd welcome having their stories, shared with me because I want to share more of them with you, just as you're doing here, Lynn.
Yes, yes. Now, as we wrap this up, I do want people to know where they can go and get all of this information. We're still waiting for a little information on the Whoop It Up event, but you can get to the link to go to the story about Tex, to go to the Indiegogo crowdfunding page, and Lynn's brought a gift for everyone as well. So, Lynn, why don't you tell us about this amazing gift that you're giving away to everyone?
Well, there's a couple gifts. So first, if you are listening here, whether it's the replay or live, I put together some inspirational quotes for you along with my introduction about my story. And it's in an ebook called Believe in Yourself. And I believe Lynn will be offering that through her site, right?
Yes, you can get it at skyhawkenterprises.biz/believe. And
Right.
on that page, you'll be able to get to the download of the book as well as the other things that Lynn was talking about. Now, Lynn, go ahead,
All
complete.
right. Thank. So you can also email me, Lynn at differencemakersmedia.com, and just put down ebook, and I'm happy to send it to you. You can also contribute if you are willing, $10 to my campaign. You'll not only get the ebook, but a surprise gift, which I will also be giving out during the Whoop It Up party. I don't want to tell you what it is, but it definitely ties in with making a difference for everybody. And besides that, I'm also offering a free coaching session, 30-minute coaching session. I'll extend it beyond 15. Just remind me in an email, because I believe we all need to pull together. You know, I couldn't do this by myself. Lynn is being so gracious and kind to help me share my story. And as Rain Dowell is being kind as the online hosts also who are joining the Whoop It Up party, Ronnie Binzer and Chef Dennis, who I hardly really even know. They're giving of their hearts, so we all can work together to make a difference. There's that saying, together everyone achieves more, team, and this is really happening here. So besides the ebook, Believe in Yourself, besides the free surprise that you'll get when you either come on to the Whoop It Up party or or just what else? Or else if you make a donation to my cause, the Dancing with Text, I'm also going to send you free marketing tips if you go to the business website, which I'm working to update. My business website is Park, P-A-R-K, AVE, marketing.com. And there's an opt-in box you can go to, and I will be sending you free marketing tips that you will get. And it's amazing if you just learn one little nugget of information, how it can make a big impact. So I would recommend signing up for the free marketing tips and take advantage of these gifts so that you can help it, make a bigger impact yourself in whatever you do.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I wanted just to say, Lynn, that, I think I have a book right in front of me that has the title Believe. And the reason behind the inspirational quotes is that many times we might think, well, we've heard enough, but I think it's so important, just like the story of Tex, where she was imprinted to think she was a certain character, she was a person. We all need to continually remind ourselves with inspirational messages that we can be all we can be, that we are perfect, that we are wonderful, and that we're helping others. So I would recommend, just like it's good to take some kind of a shower or bath on a regular basis, it's good to bathe our mind with positive thinking, and that's why I put that inspirational book of quotes together to encourage all of us to take a moment and pause in our day and reflect on some inspiration.
Wonderful. Well, the page is there, skyhawkenterprises.biz, and you will find all of the links to what Lynn has shared with you today, including how to get your free marketing tips, and really consider how important story is for you to not only be able to express with passion, not pain, but with passion, your own story, and to express the stories of the successes of others in order to help to increase the attraction factor for yourself. And Lynn has given us some amazing real live practical examples of that today. And I want to thank you so much, because this has been amazing to learn about your story, to learn about stories of people that you've helped to build their own stories, and then to hear the story of Tex and George. So for those of you who are joining us either live or by replay, make sure you go to Skyhawk Enterprises with an S on the end, .biz, B-I-Z, / believe. And that will take you right to the page where all of Lynn's information is and how you can get to everything that she's offered. So, Lynn, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience as we complete today's module? Something that you just know is compelling and you want to put it out there so that they not only have an even greater sense of who Lynn Sanders is, but a greater sense of your passion and your purpose?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess my parting message, really, if I had to sum it up in the one word, would be believe. Believe in yourself. Believe in your abilities to do far more than you could even imagine. Just believe and know that you are filled with a positive spirit that can touch and transform the world. It all starts with you. That story starts with you, and you decide, your thoughts will decide what the outcome will be. I believe in you. I know Lynn does. So go forward and make a difference.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lynn.
And thank you, Lynn.
For being here today and for moving through the challenges that we had at the beginning of the show, prior to the show, to get here today. I so appreciate you and what you brought to the Permission Movement experience, and thank you so much. To our audience, I want to thank you. I want you to know how much I appreciate you for continuing this journey with us. It's been, well, we're almost done with our 9 weeks, 9 celebrity guests and co-authors sharing all of this valuable information on story, how to write a new story, to create a new life, to have that powerful business that you desire to have. And then, you know, I would be remiss if I let this show end without actually doing a call to action to get you to support us in bringing this whole project to girls and women's groups because we are packaging these modules and we are selling the digital product, $147, 3 very easy ways to pay. One is, would you buy it today if you didn't have to pay anything for 6 months? I would definitely consider that and pay it on your own terms. There's a way to do that, and it's all on the page, and I'm going to give you the link to that. permissionmovement.org. Go up to the yellow bar on the right-hand side where it says PM Experience. Click that button, and you'll go right to the page where it talks all about what it is that we're doing here. So join us again on tomorrow when we have Gail Watson, who's the CEO and founder of the Women Speakers Association, who's actually going to talk about writing your story, telling your story, speaking your story to help heal the world. So thank you for joining us today. On behalf of Lynn Sanders, my guest, and myself, B. Lynn Hawkins, have a fabulous day. We will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.